Hello, my name is Tutloon Penry. I'm a solitary pagan witch, I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. And today's little chat is about, can we ever do a spell wrong? And if we spot someone doing a spell wrong, what should we do about it? The answer to the last question is mind our own business, basically. There is no greater teacher when it comes to spell work than doing it wrong. I mean, for most people, their wants are few. They want to make somebody better. They want to perhaps get a better job. They want to get some more money. They might want to marry a particular person, or, I don't know, have sex with them, be partners with them, whatever. Doesn't matter. If we look at some of those, well, the only thing I would say, if anybody is thinking only of, can I do a spell to make more money? Can I do a spell to bring my friend back to me, renew our friendship, whatever? There's a wonderful short story, and you can find it on the good old internet, and it's called The Monkey's Paw by W. Jacobs. Very, very old story. But if you ever want an example of how to be very careful, how you should be very careful when you cast any sort of magic, I would say go and read that, because it really is a bit of a wake-up call, I think, how you can do something with the best of intentions and it all goes horribly wrong. Now, there are two extremes. The one is, yes, we can do whatever we like. We're witches, we're magicians, we're wizards, we're sorcerers. We can do whatever we like. And yes, up to a point, it's true. It's true in real life. We can do whatever we want. But if we go and decide to rob the local bank, the chances are we will be arrested and sent to prison. If we decide to pick a fight with our neighbours, we may get a punch in the nose or a black eye. We can do what we like, but we have to accept there are sometimes consequences, and the consequences are not always very nice. So before we do anything, we need to think about it. And that applies to real life, and it applies to our spell work too. But on the one hand, there are people, as I said, who say, I want to do whatever I want. I want to make somebody ill. Oh, yes. Now, you be careful with things like that. And you'll have people say, but the threefold law, and all this. Well, all right, the threefold law, it mostly applies to Wiccans. But we used to have a saying in my family, and I'm sure it's on my video somewhere else, which said, wishes and curses are like old hens. They always come home to roost. So whatever you do, just be a bit careful, because it may have unforeseen consequences. In fact, that's the one thing I will say about magic. It does have consequences, and I would rather be worrying about the law of unforeseen consequences, if there is such a thing, and if there isn't, there should be. I'd rather worry about that than I would worry about any threefold law. The other one is, what about karma? Well, yes, but you've got to remember that karma belongs to a different tradition. It's not really part of Western tradition. And when people talk about karma, they have it as a nice little package of retribution. And of course, in countries where karma is really part of their culture, part of their belief systems, it's very precise. For example, if somebody commits suicide, they have to reincarnate 84 times before they become human. And that may be, you may be reincarnated as a beggar or somebody afflicted with terrible diseases and things like that. It's not going to be very nice, because that's how they see it. But for a lot of people in the West, karma is just something nice and easy that comes after you and puts everything right. Don't worry about it, it's karma. Now, do you know, I have no idea what I was talking about. Casting spells, that's right. So there is a lot more I can do on this, and I might do it at some point. But what do we do when we see people casting a spell and it's not a very good idea? Well, mostly, I would say ignore it as much as you can, because firstly, there's a good chance if they're that far off course, the spell isn't going to work anyway. And possibly the best way to approach it, especially if they've taken you into their confidence and told you they're going to do it. And if you say, well, I'm not sure that's the best way to do whatever it is you want, and maybe you shouldn't do it at all, I think perhaps another way of approaching it is a day or two later saying, oh, how did that spell go? No, they might tell you, they might not. But sometimes that's a good way of almost shaming them into admitting it didn't work. And then perhaps you can carry on the conversation, well, it was always going to be a problem, that, because whatever it was they did. So that's one way of looking at it. Of course, the other thing that was around the Mediterranean was Nemesis. Nemesis is like a goddess of vengeance. So you could always direct a little word in their ear. In fact, if you go to somewhere like Bath, you find a lot of these lead curse tablets, which are little pieces of lead where they'd put out what they wanted on the lead. Please curse the man who stole my cloak when I was in the baths, things like that. And sometimes it would be directed to a particular deity, Oh, Zeus, please do such and such for me. It's another way to look at it. There were lots of things with that. So, if you really want to get at something, well, that's the way to do it. But to be honest with you, the whole thing about how we cast a spell, when we cast a spell, whether we should cast a spell, are we qualified to cast any spell at all? Let me tell you something. One of the best teachers of magic is making mistakes. I mean, when I was small, I believed I could fly. I really did. And I used to go and climb up on my auntie's coal bunker, where we kept the loose coal ready for the fire. I used to climb on top of it and leap off. And after a few times landing flat on the floor and hurting myself, I decided, no, really, I couldn't fly. It didn't matter what sort of spells I cast, it wasn't going to work. And it taught me, and I've never really tried to fly again. It's beyond me. It's not going to happen. And I think sometimes that's not a bad way to do it. To actually let people try and let them do their thing, if you like. And sometimes people are just exploring what they want. I've got a wonderful little granddaughter. I always call her my witchy granddaughter. And she was out one day hitting my hedge. I've got a very thick, tall hedge. And she was out there with a stick, hitting 7 bells out of it. She really was. And I said to her, oh, lovely, what are you doing? And she said, well, I'm making hedge music, Nanny. And it made perfect sense to her. And in a way, that's what it's like when you're trying to cast a spell for the first few times. You are making hedge music. You're doing your best, you're trying, giving it a go. And I think sometimes we're too quick to jump in and say, this is wrong, this is wrong. And we're getting to a stage more and more nowadays where people are jumping in and saying, oh, you must go to me, I will cast a spell for you for X amount of money. And of course, this is where things start to go terribly wrong. We really shouldn't be doing this, and we shouldn't be taking notice of people who offer us their services at a price. I mean, I agree that people are, if they're offering a service, they should be paid for it. But equally, I think some things are really not suitable. They're not the good idea, put it that way. I don't cast spells for people. I might send good wishes, blessings, something like that, but I won't cast spells for people. And simply that's because I haven't a clue what it is they really want. And quite often they're not honest, which is another one. So we've got to think about that. Anyway, look, I've rattled on for 9 minutes here. It's one of the wonderful things about recording on my phone. I can see how many minutes I've done. And it's quite alarming at the moment. So I think I'll finish there and I'll get on and do another video as soon as I can. And thank you very much for listening. Bye.